Hello and welcome back to a Healthy Discipline podcast, newly named and newly on YouTube. Our new YouTube.
Our YouTube
There we
channel.
go. Our new YouTube channel. It's a new up and coming site, don't worry. It's fine.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. It's not a rip-off, promise. And we didn't start it.
It is a ripoff, and it's without all the politics, so you can join.
Yeah. Oh, oof. Risky. Okay, so full disclosure, we haven't done a podcast in a few weeks now. We've just been busy and things. The world's still in lockdown, and it's taken us a while to get back to it. We try to get one every week, and whenever everything's back to normal, I think we can figure probably a better schedule.
Yeah.
But at the
main
minute,
issue is that I work during the day, and Mikey's times are more in the evening, so it's finding that perfect crossover time that can both be available.
yeah. So hopefully we'll get that sorted. But we were going to talk today about habits.
Yeah, habit formation and potentially how to break habits.
Yeah. So we both kind of had this idea of talking about habits, and I kind of had one way of thinking about it, or thinking about whenever it comes to health and fitness, thinking about habits, and Daniel has like a kind of other side way of thinking about them, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So you say you've been like reading stuff and all that, listening to audiobooks and stuff about it recently.
Yeah.
Have they helped much? And I mean,
yeah.
everyone knows what a habit is, right? But obviously the understanding and how to form and break habits is a lot more complicated.
Yeah, so the way that I keep trying to change my the way that I conceptualize certain words. So a habit is normally just an automatic response thing that you do regularly, and that's what most people think of a habit. Think of what a habit is, but I'm trying to reconceptualize it in my mind so that I have a better understanding of it. So again, one of the good things about having a podcast like this is we can actually openly discuss this and then develop our ideas as we go. So again, I'm open to opinions, and talking it through with Mikey and hearing his thoughts and opinions can help me formulate my ideas a little bit better.
Basically how that works is I come up with the rubbish that no one would think of, and then he's like, I can cross that off.
Yeah. Well,
idea formed because I got rid of all the trash.
Well, you have good ideas sometimes.
Yeah, few and far between.
The way that I'm thinking of habits now is it's kind of like if you think about a program just running in the background that you can do automatically. So, it's hard to describe it. So, getting up and going for a run every morning, I suppose you could call that a habit, and it's just something that you naturally want to do, but it's something that you can do unconsciously without any real effort or thought, so that you have your conscious mind focusing on other things.
Yeah.
So that's sort of the way that I'm more leaning towards how I think about it, rather than just because otherwise it's just a routine. Your routine would be to be getting up early in the morning. The habit is what helps you get up to go for the run.
Yeah.
A lot of people would think of the run as the habit, but the run isn't the habit. The run is the task
that
you want to be able to do. The habit would be to get up early in the morning.
So to you
could go out for the run.
Yeah. So to you, the habit is like a downloader in your system tray. It's just working away in the background, updating a program without you even knowing about it.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
So when you think about it that way, it starts making you think about triggers and cues and certain things in your environment that you can sort of set up to help you or help encourage you to be more likely to do the things that you want to do.
Yeah.
In your routine.
Mm-hmm. So do you have any habits that you're particularly aware of that I don't know, well, in a health and fitness term, what way would you put it? Do you have any health and fitness habits?
Yeah.
Good or bad?
My main one
That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
I couldn't think of I wanted to word it a specific way and it just wouldn't form in my head. But there you go. Go on.
Yeah, so I'm trying to form routines that can help me with this kind of thing. But the one habit that I have is I wake up early, which I like doing, and I prefer to train in the morning. So if
Hmm.
I get up early, I can train. If I don't get up early, I don't train. Um, I don't, and I don't know what it is with the way that my brain functions, but I don't enjoy training later in the day as much. I don't feel as focused and as driven to do it. Whereas in the morning, it's easy for me.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I'm trying to reform my cues maybe later on in the evening so that I can become more productive. I'm very productive in the morning, but as soon as the day goes, I'm less and less productive.
Yeah.
But that's because I think a lot of the environmental stuff that I have going on with work and then coming home and then being tired, and I just need to sort of readjust certain things to encourage me to form better habits that will lead to more productive outcomes.
That makes sense because even whenever we were living together, I noticed that any work that you had to do or anything that you wanted to do, even if it was going on Minecraft and installing mods and sorting a whole pile of stuff out, whatever it was,
Mm-hmm.
graphic work, anything, I noticed that you always did it in the morning, and then by like lunchtime you were done and you would just watch videos or whatever.
Yeah, I think in my head, I love watching videos. I love listening to audiobooks. I like learning new things. And for some strange reason, after 12 or 1 or something like that, my brain just switches into that sort of mode. And I only want to consume stuff rather than make things.
Yeah. So it's like it's almost like a fatigue because you're getting up that early and just going straight to doing productive stuff.
Or
So
it's
you've
because I
already done 4, 5, 6 hours by the time lunchtime rolls around.
or it's because I already have a habit of doing that. So it's
Yeah.
a subconscious program that runs in the background that you just go through the motion with, and once it's ingrained there, it's difficult to get rid of. Like a good
Yeah.
example of this would be once you have a habit, it's there forever, essentially, until you rewrite it with something else, kind of like hard disk space. And one of the books that I was listening to was talking about people with brain trauma
Hmm.
that ended up having certain sections of their brain removed, so they would lose their short-term memory, but they, for some strange reason, still understand what is in their environment. So a person lost, I can't remember which section of the brain that was responsible for it, but they no concept of short term. So they lost 20 years of their life and they reverted back to, when they were younger, and they redeveloped a lot of the old habits that they had then because it was so deeply ingrained. But even if you took them out of their environment that they were used to, and because in one instance they moved to Florida from Michigan or somewhere, but he was still able to navigate his way through the house out of habit because that part of the brain was still functioning, but he's not aware of it, so he has no conscious control, but he's still able to form these habits, which is
Yeah.
quite interesting. So it's a very powerful mechanism to get you to do things. So I think that's ingrained in my head where after this particular time, I'm more in a rest and absorb sort of mode
Yeah.
that I kind of want to try to break out of. But in order to break out of that, I need to set up incentives and disincentives and try to change my structure of the way that I think.
Yeah.
But it's becoming aware of it, like a lot of because it's habit forming is subconscious. You don't even know it. So
Yeah. Yeah. Just like picking your nose or biting your nails. You
yeah,
don't
a
notice
lot.
you're doing it until you're already going, oh, oh, oh,
Yeah, and it is identifying what triggers,
slapping your own
your
hand.
yeah. But it's trying to identify the triggers, and this is one of the concepts in the book that I was listening to that is trying to take stock of what it is. Like they say, there's no such thing as a bad habit. There's just effective habits and less effective habits. Um, the habit itself isn't bad. It's just the outcome may be bad, but the habit itself isn't the bad thing. Like if there was one they were talking about a woman who used to smoke, and she always went smoking when she was horse riding, and then after a while she decided to quit and she stopped horse riding. But as soon as she got back on the horse, she got these really strong cravings for cigarettes because that was her
That
routine.
was a
She'd go out
cue.
on the horse and smoke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, saying there's no such thing as a good habit and a bad habit is a bit relative
No,
because
the habit itself isn't. It's just the outcome
yeah,
and
it's
like
yeah.
the habit itself is effective at what it does or less effective at what it does.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like what I was saying before. There's no such thing as a good exercise and a bad exercise. It's just how you perform it and if it's right for what you want it to be.
Yeah.
The exercise still does its thing. Like they're clearly dangerous exercises that you shouldn't do.
Yeah.
But that's because they're not effective at doing what they're supposed to do. There's other things that's more effective that you can do.
Yeah. So I was looking up before we started recording here how long it takes to form a habit, because there's obviously almost everyone's seen in school or from someone on the internet, you know, like one of those inspirational posts, you know, like my poster here, bones heal but glory is forever.
Yeah.
You know, my inspirational poster that inspires me whenever I need to kick up the ass. You can go break yourself. Yeah, so it takes 21 days to form a habit, and everyone at some point will have been told that. What did you say?
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
But there's been loads of studies done on this, and it's supposedly a myth. I say supposedly a myth because it is a myth and it's not a myth.
Yeah, it could be true.
Yeah, yeah. I could, I don't know what. I could wash my hands at exactly 3:02 every day for 21 days, and then I might just subconsciously do it on the 22nd day.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, was it you saying to me? No, I think it was Steve was saying to me recently that every day around lunchtime, he looks at his phone for the time, and every day it's 13:37. And that's like a habitual body clock, I guess.
Yeah, trained himself for that.
Yeah, where he's just like going, what time is it?
Always on time after like 7 to 7.5 hours.
Yeah.
I always wake up in around the same time.
Yeah.
Even without an alarm a lot of the time.
Yeah. I wake up.
I wake up, it's at the right time, but then I can either choose to lay on or not.
Yeah. I wake up at whenever my body chooses. I'm not a minute before.
Yeah. Me normally it's around 6. So it can be a little bit before, a little after. Unless I'm really tired. But again, it depends on when I fall asleep, because it's almost always exactly 7 to 7.5 hours. I'm trying to get it up to 8.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You're awake about 4 to 6 hours before me, so.
Yeah, I'm awake 4 to 6 hours before you go to bed.
True. So whenever it comes to forming a habit, if you say a habit takes 21 days to form, you're not particularly wrong or specifically wrong, but you also aren't correct, because it could take 5 days for someone to form a habit. It could take 2 years for someone else to form a habit. It's all down to
frequency. For one, frequency is a big thing. Like if it's something that you do every day, then you're more likely to pick it up quickly. If it's something you do, you know, like washing your hands, if you're trying to develop a habit of washing your hands, you only have to think about it consciously for maybe a week, and then you'll get it done because you wash your hands so many times throughout the day. Yeah. So that's faster. Also, it depends on whatever incentives you have. So if it's something that you truly, really enjoy, then you're more likely to pick up the habit faster. As long as all the conditions are correct for you to do that. You know, a lot of people think that they can form a habit of go climbing once a week, but then, you know, like I try, but then you have to realize.
I was about to say, relating to yourself right there.
Yeah, well, I would love to go every week, but then you have to think, right, I need to pay for it for one, so there's a disincentive. I have to travel there, which is another disincentive. Then I have to, you know, climb for ages, but then I get sore quickly because I don't climb all that much, so my hands hurt a lot. So you have the pain incentive, and then sometimes you just feel like you don't want to have to spend all day there, but it's not worth the time if you don't spend, you know, a good few hours there, because it's expensive. So
yeah, unless you're really blasting out the climbs.
Yeah, and even though
just fighting through the fatigue,
obstacles in the way, and you need to figure out how to remove those things to make it easier to go. So
yeah.
Same thing like with jiu-jitsu. Whenever we do jiu-jitsu, it's an easy habit to form because it's right in the same town that we live in. It's, you know, a lot of my friends take part in that. The social aspect, that's another helpful way to develop new habits. If there are already habits that other people have, or if there are other habits that people are trying to form, and you have a team trying to encourage each other to do that. So that also increases the time it takes in order to form a habit.
Yeah. It's funny. This is actually the topic whenever we're trying to form a habit of creating podcasts.
Yeah.
Now that I think about it.
Yeah, no,
which is literally what we opened up with.
Yeah. No, it's exactly one of the reasons I was looking into habit formation is because I want to make sure I create the perfect environment to make it as easy as possible to sit down and record. Now, the
Yeah,
hardest thing to figure out is when we're both free. That's the biggest obstacle that we have, which is a disincentive to doing the podcast.
yeah,
Also, we need a proper structure because, like today with this one, we only kind of just decided, right, we're going to talk about habits. Luckily enough, I've been looking into it. You were thinking about it, and it's also apt for this, thing, that we're doing with the podcast because we
yeah,
want to create habits for the podcast.
yeah. Ask and the
So
universe shall provide the perfect
yeah,
topic.
yeah. So planning that, like I was saying, that's another one of the disincentives for doing it because again, it's awkward to figure out what we want to talk about,
Yeah,
and with the scope of this podcast, it is a little broad, so it's trying to narrow it down
yeah,
to talk about something that people might actually be interested in.
yeah. It's I think it's a hard one as well because I think a lot of people have negative connotations towards habits. Whenever people think of a habit, they think of addiction a lot of the time, and I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I don't personally, but I
That would
know
probably be on the
a few
negative
people
side
that
of the
do.
coin for habit. I don't think people would think of you don't go, oh, well, I have a bad habit. I drink a lot. It's like I'm addicted. Well, I suppose if you're trying to make it sound more positive, you would call drinking a habit. But it's really just an addiction.
Um. Uh. Well, I'll put it in context. Anytime you'll hear someone talking about someone who's died from a drug overdose, they'll say he had a drug habit.
Yeah,
You
to make
know.
it sound more positive, but
Yeah.
everyone knows it was an addiction.
But that using the term drug habit puts the word habit in a bad light, so that people think, oh, I have a habit. That's not good.
No, I think it's them trying to make it out to be positive, so it's not as bad. If you go and say you have an addiction, then that's admitting that you have an addiction, whereas some people are trying not to admit that, so they're saying it's a habit instead.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. I
Um,
don't think there's any negative connotation to habit.
I don't think there is either, but I think some people have that stigma around the word.
Nope. If they do, maybe
Because
spread that.
most
It's
of
a habit. Everybody has habits.
yeah,
It's possible to avoid them. It's a very useful tool that we have as human beings, and well, I suppose animals have habits too. But I mean, like it's living creatures have in order to easily go through the world. A lot of things
yeah,
automatically. Like eventually, driving becomes a habit, so you don't have to concentrate as much, and that frees up your brain to think about other things. If you're constantly having to concentrate all the time, it makes it very difficult to achieve anything really because you burn out so fast.
yeah. But it also
That's
makes it
it's also the thing that takes away willpower. That was another thing I was thinking about before in relation to habit formation was willpower. So the more you have to think about, so if we're talking about like avoiding eating cookies or something, and like I have to do this. We're not allowed to have any sweets in the house because if it's there, I'm going to want to eat them. And then the more I think about them, like I can resist it for a while, but then eventually that you can't resist it forever because you don't have enough concentration, enough focus in order to do that. So it has to be out of the house. And it turns out the people that have the highest willpower, it's not that they are stronger mentally than other people's. It could be, but the main cause is the fact that they don't allow themselves to focus on it. So rather than having it around, they're just better at avoiding it so that they don't have to think about it, and then they don't get worn down to the point where they go out and have that cookie.
yeah. I'm basically the same. If there's sweets or biscuits around and I know they're there, as soon as I start to get bored and I'm like, kind of hungry, and I'm not really hungry.
No, you're just bored.
Yeah, and then I'm like, do you know what's really good right now? Chocolate. Do you know what'd be really good right now? Ice cream.
Because it has
And if
like a
it's
novel effect in your brain, and then you're like, oh, that'd be nice. I'm not hungry, but it would be, it's an interesting
yeah,
experience, and I enjoy it. So
yeah,
you're being rewarded. So there's your reward for doing it.
yeah. But then a lot of the time, you'll just grab it before you even realize. You go down for a glass of water, and the next thing you've got a biscuit in your hand.
Yeah, well, I don't have them in the house, so I can't do that.
Yeah,
And then I'm
well,
like, oh, I
there's
wish I
there's
had
a
that sweet stuff because I never have them when I want them. And then I'm like, no, it's probably a good thing because I'm too lazy to go get them.
well, we live together long enough. You know that I never really buy biscuits.
Well, the problem whenever we lived together is we lived right beside a shop. So anytime I had a craving, I'm like, well, it's not in the house, but it only takes me 5 seconds to walk to the shop, so I can go get it. But now
Yeah,
I have to drive. Well, I don't have to drive, but if I walked, it would take me 15 minutes. Well, it'd take me longer to get there and then get home. Um, or I could drive, but I don't want to waste the fuel. So there's a lot of disincentives stopping me from going to
yeah,
do it.
which is a good thing.
Yeah, no, it's exactly. I like that.
Yeah.
And that's a good way to stop yourself from doing a habit that you don't want to do.
Yeah,
You set up obstacles in the way of it, and then you make it easier to do the things that you do want. And that's a lot of how habit formation is structured. So if you're wanting to create habits for yourself, like if you want to go for a run first thing in the morning, but for one, you have to make sure you can wake up early enough in the morning to do that before you have to go to work. And then it's like, okay, well, I don't have any of my stuff ready. So if you set out your stuff before the night, the night before, like what Anna and I tend to do, we both have a habit of cleaning the kitchen as soon as we use it, so that it's ready for the next day. And I think it's something called resetting the room, and it's a good habit to have, so that anytime you want to do something in the kitchen, you don't have to clean it.
yeah,
Which makes it a lot easier to cook, because I don't have to go, I need to clean the kitchen. I don't have any dishes to use. I don't have any, cutlery today. And I can't be bothered to wash it. So I'm just going to go have some, order some food.
yeah. It's I guess that's the same concept as whenever you wake up, making the bed.
Yeah. Make your bed every morning. I always do that. And
Yeah.
it's that one's an interesting one. It's like Jordan Peterson's talking about in his 12 rules for life is, clean your room. And being able to clean your room gives you a sense of control of what you do, which is nice. And that was the first thing that I started doing in order to, and then I got really obsessive about that. And my room has always been clean. And then now that I'm living with Anna, and the whole house is ours, essentially. Like when I was living with you, we had our own rooms and then there was communal areas, but I focused more on my space. Because there's certain people that we live with that you can't control. So even if you do try to keep it tidy, they ruin it for you. But luckily for me, Anna's quite clean as well. So we both have the house nice and clean. And anytime I go through a room, I'll tidy it up.
Yeah.
And now I use that as a form of procrastination, which is a bit more of a healthy way to procrastinate, honestly, rather than just sitting there and playing, a game I don't even want to play just so that I don't have to do some work.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's true. Procrastination, I have a huge problem with procrastination.
I think we both do.
Yeah, massive.
Yeah.
Although I did clean the house the other day, so
but again,
I spent like 2 hours cleaning the bathroom. So
yeah, but then you're the only one doing that, and you're disincentivized to do that because you have somebody else in the house that's going to ruin it for you.
Yeah.
That's not me slagging anybody off, but I mean.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it happened the same if you cleaned your shower and then Anna, as soon as you clean it, it's like, okay, I'm going to get a shower. You're like, you son of a.
Yeah, it's like, again,
I just cleaned that.
Yeah. Anytime I cleaned somewhere else, somebody, who would always ruin it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, somebody's coming over. Daniel has a guest, so we're going to finally have a clean bathroom. It's like, if you wanted a clean bathroom, clean the damn bathroom. I don't want to have to do it all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I don't want people coming into the house thinking we're slobs.
Yeah.
You are a slob. Not you specifically, but, I don't like living that way.
Yeah.
And you call it OCD, and it's like, no, I'm not OCD. I just like things being done right.
Yeah. I have the same issue. If anyone's coming around to my house, I feel really bad whenever they walk into a dirty house, especially if there's smells and things. Because me and you're quite similar in that way. Now you have a extremely keen sense of smell. I have a very strong sense of smell. Yours stronger. But whenever someone walks in and there's a bad smell or anything, I'm very aware of that. And you can ask Pete whenever he called around the other day. As soon as he stepped through the door, I went, yeah, sorry about the smell. There's not a whole lot I can do about it with the 2 dogs. Mm-hmm. And he was like, he's like, yeah, actually, it smells a lot like Dan's mum's place.
Yeah.
Because she's got dogs.
My mom cleans her dogs.
So, and that could take part as well, because obviously, because there's 2 big dogs downstairs, I could every day.
Sorry.
Squeaky voice teen from Simpsons.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for me, forming a habit could be as simple as me every day going downstairs, putting the dogs out, brushing all the floors, mopping the floors, and dusting all the surfaces.
Yeah, but then you have the disincentive that as soon as you do that, you bring the dogs in, it's just going to be instantly ruined.
Yeah.
And also the disincentive that it's not your responsibility, it's the dog's owner's responsibility to do that.
Yeah, they're not my dogs. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So why would you want to, like, this is exactly why I didn't clean the house more often whenever I was living with you guys. It's
Yeah.
why would I want to sit, like, I would clean dishes and do things specifically for me so that I could have them later and also to be considerate of the people that I lived with. But then you had other people that just didn't care about that. And then they want a rota for cleaning. And it's like, yeah, but you never clean anything,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and I'm not going to set up a rota that you're not going to follow.
Well, I think you and I both have a similar issue, which is whenever someone else cleans, we go, yeah, that's not done right. And then we do it anyway. Right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
you know, so that plays a big factor in it as well.
Yeah, I don't like a half-assed job. Like if you're gonna do it right, and if you do it right, you don't have to do it often. That's the other thing that annoys me.
Yeah. So this is getting more off the topic of habits and more onto OCD of cleaning things.
No, I said this already. It's not OCD. I just like shit done right.
Same.
Yeah.
Same.
It's like, okay, a good example of doing something wrong. You think something as easy as mopping the floor would be something that anybody could do. Just mop the floor. But people can't do that right. So what they do is when they mop the floor, they just douse it in water and think that's exactly what I have to do and move it around a bit. It's like, no, that's not the point of mopping a floor. You want to wring out the mop and then wipe over it so it can dry quickly. If you leave it too wet and it takes so long to dry, the bacteria eventually grows and then you get this musty smell on the floor. Yeah. But
by the way, there's carpet in this room.
Yeah, but it's not being mopped there. But people literally just, smear water around the floor without any really, real thought of, having it as dry as you can so that it dries quickly and then you have a nice clean floor. Yeah. And then, refreshing the mop bucket and stuff like that. But again, you think it would be something that it would be an easy thing to do, but it's not.
Yeah. I've come to learn recently as well that a lot of people have the habit, of after they use a mop bucket, just leaving it outside with the mop.
Yeah. No.
Apparently this is quite common, and I'm like,
no, you rinse it out.
What?
Yeah.
Why would you take your mop and your mop bucket and leave it outside? That doesn't make sense because then it's just gathering more dirt.
Yeah, and
the next time you go to use it,
stick it out in a way that it, in a place that it can dry.
Yeah.
We don't go through many mop heads because we dry them properly. There's no stench off it, and we've been using this one for a long time.
Yeah, I need a new mop altogether, to be honest. But yeah, I thought this was odd, but apparently it's actually very common.
Yeah, well, we'll try to move away from pet peeves rather than OCD. It's not OCD. I would say it's more pet peeves.
Yeah,
Try to make it a little bit more applicable. Fair enough. It could be, again, this is a healthy discipline. So having a clean environment is a benefit for, your health. Coming up with good structures and ways of doing things is also, conducive to good health.
Yeah. It's also a benefit for your training because if you have a home gym or a home workout area and you go down to it and you go, wow, this place is a mess, you're going to go, yeah, I can't be bothered training today. I'll wait till I clean that. I'll clean it tomorrow.
Yeah, it's the same idea as resetting the room for the kitchen. You want to do the same thing for your workout space. And you need things to be handy, sitting out handy at the time. Like if you have certain boxes where you can't see where things are. Like I have a fitness equipment box that I never even look in because it's like, why would I? It's out of sight, out of mind kind of thing. But in the gym room that I use or the room that I use as a gym, everything else is laid out, like my resistance bands so that I can see them and the weights and everything where I can see them. So it's easy to plan out what I'm going to do. But this stuff that I have in that little box, it's like, well, why would I use them? I have sliders and parallettes and other things that I rarely use. But if I brought them out into the other room, I would probably be more likely to use it. So whenever I go to do a specific routine that requires them, I'll have them sitting out, and anything I'm not using, I'll store away.
Yeah. Which makes sense. The things you can see are the things that you're going to think about.
Mm-hmm. And that's, again, why if there's something that you don't want to do, have it out of sight so that you don't think about it.
Yeah.
Like, one of the examples was a guy, he wanted to eat more apples, but he always kept his apples in the fridge because he wanted to keep them fresh. But then he realized because they were in the fridge, he would never eat them because he didn't see them. So he started leaving it in a basket, out on the countertop.
Yeah.
And then he ended up eating all the apples because they were easy to access and they never went bad because he always ate them all.
Yeah. I mean, like, I always grew up with a fruit basket.
At all, that I don't think apples are healthy, so I eat apples.
I always grew up with a fruit basket in the house. My mom always kept a fruit basket in the kitchen.
Yeah, no, we even have one. Well, we use it for lemons, but
yeah. Well, my mom always keeps some of all fruit in it, and whenever I was growing up, the only fruit I really ate was bananas. So every time I would, go into the kitchen, I'm like, oh, I'm hungry. If there was no biscuits, then I'd be like, oh, look, banana.
Yeah, banana's really high in sugar, high in fiber, lots of stuff you don't really need. A cookie might have been healthier. Who knows?
Well, actually, whenever I was a kid, the doctor told me that I needed more fiber because I was deficient.
You can't be fiber deficient. Anyone who says you're fiber deficient are sorry, I can't say that.
Stupid. I'm just saying that's what I was told.
You cannot be deficient in something that actually has no health benefit, nutritionally. Like, the only thing that people can say that fiber does is that it bulks your stool, because it's not soluble. It's literally just cellulose. Your body has no use for it, so it excretes it.
Yeah.
So how can you be deficient in something that doesn't actually provide any nutrition?
By not having any, because you've excreted it all.
I don't know. Sticks his finger up there and goes, no, that doesn't seem thick enough.
Nope, not enough fiber.
No. Here, let me swab your mouth to figure out if you have enough fiber in your diet. What a stupid thing to do.
Well, we'll not touch on that anymore.
Yeah.
So
I get quite enraged.
So whenever it comes to bragging habits, there's another consensus to do with bragging habits, because some people will tell you can have a habit of, let's say, and like you say, going for a run in the morning. But if you miss that once or twice, all of a sudden that habit's broken because you're not doing it automatically anymore. You're having to force yourself to try and do it again.
Mm-hmm.
But I was reading a study before this that said it's not that simple, because some people can miss an entire 2 weeks of something that's a habit, and then all of a sudden they just think, oh, I haven't been able to do that because something's got in the way, and then just like that, they're straight back to it, as if nothing ever got in the way.
Yeah, well, that goes back to what we were saying about cues, incentives, and disincentives and things like that. So at the time, they had disincentives stopping them from doing that, but as soon as those obstacles are removed, and then you bring back the things that make it more enjoyable or easier to accomplish, then they're more likely to do it again.
Yeah.
That's why you find a lot of people, if you haven't done a habit in a long time, you build up this fear in your mind. So say if you want to apply it to training with jiu-jitsu, a lot of people say take time off after grading, and then like a month or something or two, and then they start to feel self-conscious because it's like, well, I haven't been training in a long time. I don't know if I feel fit enough. And you have this a lot, negative self-talk, and then you're worried that other people are going to think that I flaked out, and people are going to be annoyed, and then you just you feel anxious going back. But then as soon as you do finally go back, you're like, oh wow, I don't even know what I was worrying about. It's still a lot of fun to do. The people are great. They were happy to see me again, so the incentives all come back, and then you make the habit of it again.
Mm-hmm. That explanation kind of reminds me of, or kind of makes me think of, the kind of people who say, oh, I really want to start that, but I'm going to lose weight first. People are like, I really want to go to the gym, but I'm going to lose weight first. I'm going to do martial arts, but I'm going to lose weight first.
Yeah, those are.
And that's almost, they're almost setting up a negative, the word's gone from my head. Why does this keep happening? I've been punched too many times. It's decentivizing them before they even start.
Yeah, de-incentivizing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's a lack of commitment. They're trying not to commit. So what a lot of people will do is they come up with these excuses, and I'm guilty of this, and I'm sure you are too. Everybody is. where it's like, well, I don't want to do that for whatever reason because I haven't done that yet, and it's just a way of putting it off. And the more you procrastinate for doing something, the less likely you are going, to eventually do it. The only thing that you can do is just to do it. And if you're afraid of it, the only way to get rid of that fear is to actually do it.
Yeah.
Because fear, fear of something unknown, or when you're afraid of something that you haven't done, it's because you don't know what to expect, and people are afraid of the unknown. So the purpose would be to make the unknown known, so that you're not necessarily less afraid, but you're braver and more likely to try.
Yeah. That's true.
It's kind of like whenever we started learning how to coach, we were thrown in the deep end, and I didn't say no because it's like, no, it's sink or swim. I'm going to give it a try. I'm terrified. I'm going to come across pretty poorly, but at least I know what not to do next time.
Yeah.
So I now know what to expect as well. So I've seen it now. I did a terrible job. I know what to expect. I can plan better for it next time.
I remember the first class that I was coaching in, and it was getting ready. I think it was the week before grading, and I was orange belt, I'm pretty sure. Mm-hmm. And I get handed a syllabus. Okay, go look after those blue belts. Yeah. I'm like, what? And they're obviously kids. And I walk over and I'm like, let me see this move. And they're like, okay, did I? Sorry?
You weren't given blue belt for orange. It was beginners in yellow.
Yeah, no, I was given blue belt. The very first day I went down to assist, I was given blue belt.
Okay.
Yeah. And I remember it very vividly because of the fact that I was like, I
don't know this stuff.
Yeah, I actually said, but I don't know these moves. And Sensei went, that'll be fine. Kids should know them, don't worry. And I was like, show me this move. And they were like, okay, boom. Is that right, Sensei? And I'm like,
I guess.
You tell me. You tell me. You should know it. And then I'm like, do you see my belt color? I'm not as far up the grades as you. I don't know this.
Yeah.
So that was just a wee side story from you saying about starting coaching. But that did also become a habit of ours.
Yeah, teaching. And because we, developed, or we were thrown in the deep end, we knew what to expect, which made it easier to get into. And then we were incentivized, by how much we enjoyed teaching. Again, part of the reason why we have these conversations is to fully flesh out our ideas, and the best way to learn is to teach. So I got a lot out of teaching kids because I got to help develop other people, which I love helping people to develop in any way that I can, but I'm also developing myself as I do that. So, it broadens my understanding of certain things.
Yeah.
Which was my main reason for wanting to teach.
Yeah.
And it's my main reason, for wanting to do the podcast. I get to expand my own personal knowledge and help other people, learn certain things or come up with tips and tricks on how to rearrange their life and their health and their fitness and
yeah.
Like that. I'm saying I'm selfish. This is for me. It's not for you. It's for me.
So I think we've been going for about 35 minutes or so, 37 minutes, something like that.
Okay.
So going to wrap it up in a second, but I've one thing, and I don't know if you know anything about it, if you've read anything about it or anything. I haven't. Habitual lying. Do you know anything about it?
I hate that. People just lie out of,
I hate it.
Well, there's a reason why people lie. Lying is the best way to get what you want in the short term. It just doesn't have any good long-term effects.
It always comes back to bite you in the ass.
Yeah, no, there's a thing that they say, smart kids learn how to lie faster, because they realize if I say this one thing, they don't know that it's not true, and then I can get what I want right now. But then like I said, it's good in the short term, but as soon as people start figuring out that you're a habitual liar, then they don't trust you anymore. But you've already gotten to the point where you lie to everybody as a default, and then you start convincing yourself of those lies, and you're like, no, I never lied. And it's like, no, well, I never said that. It's like, yeah, you did say that. Or, well, that's true. And it's like, no, it's never been true. Well, I know it's true because I say it's true. It's like, no.
Yeah.
So my philosophy, and I think we've talked about this before, is if you can't tell the truth, at least don't lie, and then that makes life so much simpler
Yeah. I'm
in the
I'm
long term.
I'm quite I'm quite a big proponent of you just lying for the sake of lying, or lying to try and get one up on someone else. It's never
Yeah.
a good thing, and 99 times out of 100, your lie will be figured out at some point and it'll come back to bite you in the ass.
Yeah, the main lie that I would tell would be more of a lie of omission. So I would avoid saying certain things, but that's because some things need, certain times to be said. Like I'll give them part of the information, the ones that, the part that they need to hear. And then later on down the line, I'll let them know the other part that I didn't let them know, which would be technically a lie of omission because you didn't give them the full truth.
Yeah.
But sometimes, you can't give somebody the full truth about certain things. Like if something bad is happening at a time and this person isn't involved and you need to protect them from whatever reason. But as a general rule, just tell the truth. Like I worked as a personal trainer, and some people want to talk about weight, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it and say, "Oh no, you're great." It's like, no, you clearly have some weight. We're going to try to help you lose that. It's insensitive to some people. They get offended by that, but it's like, no, it's the truth. It's the truth. I'm being genuine and honest with you right now, and I'm here to help you fix that.
Yeah.
You create short-term tension with certain people, and then the people that do get offended are probably people you don't want to be associated with anyway. So you just free everything up. And then in the long term, people look at you as like, okay, I trust you. You're genuine. You're going to tell me what you believe to be true. Even if I'm wrong, at least I'll tell you I'm wrong later on down the line if I realize I am. But as long as I'm not trying to deceive you or you're not trying to deceive me, I'm happy with that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's the same whenever I was working in the shop, if I showed up late, which was fairly regularly, they, like, I got slapped once for coming in and they said, "You're half an hour late. Half an hour isn't, like a small amount of time. Why are you so late?" And I was like, well, I was watching the Formula One on my phone because my TV broke, and whenever I had the player, it got rid of the clock on my phone, so that's the only clock I have, and I didn't realize what time it was. And they're like, "Could you not have just lied and said your washing machine broke or you got stuck in traffic or anything?" And I was like, why would I lie? This is the truth. I'm not trying to make excuses. It's not an excuse. It's literally the truth.
Yeah, and some people say, "Oh, you think that's an excuse?" And it's like, no, I don't think it's an excuse. It's a reason. You asked me why. I
Yeah.
gave you why. I'm not saying it's appropriate. It was my mistake, and I'm owning up to it. And you'd like to think that that would be something that you go, "Oh, okay, that's respectable."
Yeah.
But no, they think, why couldn't you just lie to me?
Yeah.
Well, why are you encouraging me to lie to you?
Yeah.
I was late for this particular reason. I'm going to try to make sure it's not a habit.
Yeah.
Going back to the habit thing, I don't want to
Mhm.
make a habit out of it. But why would you encourage me to lie? And some people do try to encourage people to lie.
Yeah. Which is probably what incentivizes habitual lying, where we've all met someone that as soon as you meet them, you're like, "Oh, hi," and they're like, "Hi, my name's Dave," and you're like, "So anyway, I was saying to Daniel about my friend who just bought a Ferrari," and he's like, "Oh yeah, really? What model is it? My dad owns a Ferrari, and it's the model up from that."
Yeah, it's
Like we all know,
one-upmanship.
yeah,
Yeah.
which is habitual lying
Oh yeah.
majority of the time. We all know someone like, and that's the kind of thing, because to me that's not just a habit. That's
That's a problem. Some people do have a
yeah,
problem.
yeah. I feel like that
They've been
kind of
rewarded one too many times, and that's why it's become a thing in their head. And it is difficult to catch yourself doing that, especially because whenever you lie like that, you do get well. The reward would be people are actually interested in what you have to say, and you like people listening to what you have to say. So you come up with these random outlandish things that get people to actually pay attention to you, and then they don't end up being true. But that doesn't matter. It's true in your head because it gets you what you want, which is that wonderful spike of whatever hormone it is that makes you feel good, dopamine or endorphins, or that rush that you want from saying, "Oh, look, I know a guy who knows this thing." And it's like, well, it's not true. It's like how people embellish
yeah,
certain stories as well after the fact and say that this big thing happened that didn't happen, but that's because it makes them look better.
yeah. I fully admit I'm one for embellishment, but generally I embellish
Or you
to a
tell that
reasonable point.
the more that you tell that story as well, the more true it becomes.
What, the embellishment?
Oh yeah, so you tell a story, you realize, oh, that got a good reaction. You tweak it a little bit and go, oh, that's even better. Yeah, and then you get a better
Yeah,
reaction.
it gets it gets the growing effect till it goes from embellishment to full lie.
Yeah. So
Um,
my method for that is I would tell a story, figure out what my punchline is, to make people laugh, and then work on the joke part rather than working on the story. The story stays the same roughly, the actual event,
yeah,
but it's the reaction changes rather than the perception.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I think whenever it comes to habitual lying, which is not really what we started talking about, I just think it's a bit of an interesting um subject when it comes to habits. Um, I think it tends to go a lot of the time hand in hand with people who are like manic depressive and things like that. If you think about the people you know that are habitual liars, I'm fairly confident you'll be going, huh, actually, yeah, that guy's pretty sure that guy has depression. This person.
I'm
That's
not sure. They definitely have
you know
something that is wrong, but I don't know if it would be necessarily manic depression. It could
yeah
be some kind of anxiety, could be anger issues, could be something.
yeah yeah
There's definitely something wrong. Otherwise, why would you lie all the time? But then again, like I said, they're rewarded to lie, so they could be a fundamentally good person that is genuinely happy, but they just keep lying because
yeah
people listen and people like it.
yeah. True, I guess. Well, should we wrap up on that extremely happy note?
Yeah. Yeah. A weird roller coaster of a conversation. Wasn't
Yeah.
any real main point, and I'm not sure if we provided any real solutions to anything. This is kind of a thing that you need to talk to people on a one-on-one, like figure out what habit they want to be able to form, or figure out what habit that they want to break. I am in the middle of trying to formulate my ideas properly when it comes to habits. So eventually, later on down the line, I may have a structure that we can go by.
Yeah, we can revisit it at some point, maybe.
Yeah. I think it would be quite interesting. And like I said, I try to put into practice anything that I talk about. So I am restructuring my own habit formation. And like we said with the podcast, we're trying to turn this into more of a regular habit. So have a planning phase, and then the actual recording phase, and then posting it out to people.
Yeah.
So if this becomes more regular, then we got it right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it doesn't, we feel miserably.
Yeah, well, try not to do that though. Yeah, I say try. That's already defeatist. We will do that. So there's the thing about habit and identity as well.
Yeah, because obviously, if you say, "Well, I'm going to try to get to work on time today,"
yeah,
that's almost an admission of guilt. You're like,
no,
whenever I say I'm going to try, I mean, if it happens, it happens.
Yeah, when it comes to like negotiation, if anybody ever says I'm going to try, that means they're planning on failing.
Yeah.
And I'm really guilty of doing that. It's like, oh yeah, no, I'll try. It's like, well, I've already planned to fail.
Yeah.
So whatever's going to happen, the most likely scenario is I'm going to fail because I planned it.
Yeah.
Without even thinking about it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I think that's 45 minutes or so. So, yeah, that's decent time.
Right.
Yeah. It's not an hour and a half.
We're going to form as well. I'm trying to keep it to the time.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we've done pretty well with it this time.
Yeah.
So that'll take us out for today.
Thank you very much for listening.
Yeah, thanks for anyone that watched, listened, pretended to put it on mute just to get the views up, whatever.
Yeah. If you feel like you got any value out of this, please like the, whatever it is, download, or if you're listening to it on a podcast, if it's on YouTube, then please like. If you want to keep in touch with us, subscribe.
Yeah.
If you have any questions, by all means comment, because we can use these to help formulate future episodes and actually answer specific questions that people may have as well.
Yeah. We're currently only uploading to YouTube. We need to sit down and figure out podcast, different places to put podcasts up and stuff. So
yeah,
we'll get that done at some point.
Yes.
See, I said we will get that done, not we'll try to get that done.
Yeah, we will get that done.
Got it done already. All right. Peace.
Ciao for now.